Hey friends, my name's Tawny. I own a fabric store and I'm going to show you how to make a chore coat jacket. This is using the toweling from Ruby Star Society. I added some pockets. Let's go. First up, measure yourself. So we're going to take our measuring tape, just kind of chuck it over your shoulder, and then line up the ends of the tape where you want the bottom of your jacket to sit. So for me, that's going to be 41 inches. And then we're going to take this measurement and add some room for our hems and for the fabric to shrink when we wash it. So I'm adding those allowances here. That's giving me a total of 46 inches. That's how long I need each piece to be, and I need 2 pieces. So that works out to about 3.5 yards, but 3.5 to 4 is about what you'll need for this project. As I mentioned, you want to wash your fabric first. I like to run a little zigzag stitch around the edge. This fabric is so soft. So let's cut our pieces. So we just need 2 pieces, 46 inches long. I just use a regular old measuring tape, measure down to 46, make a little cut with my rotary tool, and then line up my ruler and make a full cut. Make sure that horizontal line is even with the edge. And then for the second piece, I like to just line it up with the first piece, measure it down, use my rotary tool again, and cut. You could definitely do this with scissors as well if you don't have a rotary tool. I forgot to mention that we need pocket fabric. So I was debating between these 2 fabrics. I ended up going with this really fun art gallery print. Also wanted to mention I am using the blog from Ruby Star Society to make this. So this is a free blog on their website and you can get all the info there as well. So first thing we're going to do is fold over one of our pieces wrong sides together in half, fold our second piece, and then line them up together at the fold at the top. So this is the inside of the jacket that I've opened up to. I'm grabbing my ruler and a marking tool. I like these Clover chalk pens. So I'm coming down 1 inch from the fold and marking, and then I'm coming down 5 inches from the fold and making a mark. So you'll have 2 markings. And then we're grabbing our favorite tool, the seam ripper, and we are seam ripping open the hems. So this is a pre-hemmed toweling. So we're just opening up those 2 inside hems all the way to the top mark. That mark was the 1 inch from the fold mark. So we're going to do that on both pieces. I like this tool because the little rubber thing helps you get all the threads out. But there we go. We've got both hems opened. Now it's time to sew. So we are matching these up at that 5 inch mark and pinning. And I actually just do a couple of pins to get me started, and you'll kind of see why. I also like several back stitches at the beginning because this point is going to see a lot of stress. So we want to make sure it's secure. So once you've back stitched, now we're just sewing in the crease from the hem. So don't focus so much on a seam allowance. Focus more on stitching right in that crease. And this is why I don't like to pin, so that way I can kind of open it up as I go and see that crease and then line up the creases on the 2 pieces and then sew them together. Next, we're giving those pieces a really good press just to get that hem to kind of go back in place for us. And we'll take this back over to our sewing machine and we're going to top stitch them down. So I like to line up the edge of my foot with the seam line and then just move my needle over into the position I need it to be. And then we are just stitching down. So you want to make sure that hem stays folded underneath as you're stitching and just do a nice little top stitch. If you are using a matching thread color, you only need to stitch to where you seam ripped. You can just back stitch and be done. I didn't have a coordinating thread. I'm actually using a darker purple color, as you can see here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my line of stitching all the way to the end, just so it's consistent across the whole piece. So here's what that looks like. And then when you get done with one side, we're just gonna flip the piece around and go and do the other. So stitch that all the way down so those hems are stitched back in place. Let's make some sleeves. Lay out your project so you have wrong sides together, and then we're measuring down 11 inches from the fold and over 4 inches from the edge. I know I like my jacket a little bit smaller, so I'm going 10 inches from the fold, making a mark, coming over 4 inches, making a mark, and then just using a little plate to get that curve in for the arm curve. I'm just using a chalk line here as my marking tool, and then I use a ruler to get that nice straight edge along the side. Pin both layers together along the line that you just marked. Head to your sewing machine and turn that stitch length up as high as it will go. We're doing a basting stitch. Then just stitch right along that line you just marked, being sure to take out your pins as you go. Once you've completed the stitching on both sides, go ahead and try on your jacket. We're checking for fit around the hip here. I think I want to take mine in a little bit, and we're also looking at the sleeve. I also want to come in a little bit here. So I'm getting my ruler back out, and I'm basically just marking an inch over from the line I sewed before. I'm stitching both of those with a basting stitch again, checking it for fit again, and I'm feeling pretty good. I think this looks good. I'm ready to move forward. Let's finish up these French seams. I trimmed up my jacket to be even along the bottom, and then I took my ruler and just cut a 1/2 inch past that basting stitch that I did earlier. And then make sure your project is wrong sides together. So this is how you're going to wear the jacket. That's how it should be laid out. And then just go ahead and pin your side seam together. And we're going to stitch this at 1/4 inch. Here's a little trick. Push that little black thing in on your foot and it will keep it nice and level when you're starting on really thick materials. So be sure to backstitch and then stitch this at 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once you've done that, trim this down to 1/8 inch. Scissors are probably a better tool, honestly. So trim that seam and then flip it right sides out and bring it over to your ironing station and give it a really nice press, making sure to pull that fabric back all the way to the seam line. And then we're going back to the sewing machine and stitching again at 1/4 inch. So we've sewn 2 1/4 inch seams for our 1/2 inch seam allowance, and that seam is just nicely encased on itself inside the jacket and just gives it a really nice, clean finish. French seams are not that bad. You can do it. Let's hem this. I love this Clover hot ruler. It is such a great tool. You just line it up with the edge of your fabric and then fold your fabric over whatever, I think I did 7/8 of an inch, and press it so you can press right on the ruler, which is really cool. So give it a good press, and then I like to go again at 1 inch. I think this just makes a nice hem. So go ahead, give that a really good press with the ruler. And then for these spots where you have a really thick, bulky seam, I have a good little trick for you. Take your scissors and snip in, but make sure you don't snip the stitch line. Just snip right up to the stitch line, and then you can push that one piece of seam over, and then as you fold it, look at that! Makes it a little less bulky and easier to sew through. And my next trick is Elmer's school glue. This is one of my favorite sewing notions, honestly. We are running just a small little bead of glue right along that edge, folding it over and giving it a really good press with the iron. This is gonna heat set the glue and just hold everything in place for us when we go to hem. You can definitely use pins. I found this just gives me a little bit of a neater result. So here we are at the sewing machine. We've got that hem ready to sew. Just make sure your seam allowance is in a place where that needle is gonna catch it on the back. I think I did 7/8. I like to pull up the bobbin thread so I have clean stitches on both sides, back stitch, and there you go. Just keep sewing all the way around the bottom of your jacket, making sure to back stitch at the end. And then here it is. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. I love this project. It's so much fun. So you could stop here. You could be done. You could have this very cute little layering jacket. But if you want to add pockets, be sure to come back for the next part. It's time to add pockets to our chore coat jacket. Let's go. I'm using an old envelope and just kind of tracing the shape of my hand, using a plate to get the curve and then a ruler to get the other lines straight. And then I'm going back in and adding a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around because I'm going to sew 2 pieces together at 1/4 inch and turn them out. So use the plate to get that curve right again. And then I like to fold it in half and cut it while it's folded in half so that way the curve is perfectly symmetrical. Yay, we have our pattern piece. Okay, I'm folding the fabric in half and then lining the edge up with the fold and then just using my rotary cutter to cut all the way around and doing this again for the second piece. And then I'm taking these and I'm going to fold them right sides together and then stitch around the edge at 1/4 inch, leaving an opening so I can turn them out. There they are, and of course I forgot to leave an opening on that one, so we'll be seam ripping. Here I am snipping out notches along the curve. This is going to help the curve be more curvy, I guess. It'll just let it get nice and crisp. Speaking of which, I like this point turner tool to go in and really just push the edge out and get it nice and crisp. Okay, now we're figuring out where's this pocket gonna go. So just kind of lining it up with where my hand would like naturally go to be in a pocket, and then coming back over to the table and using my ruler to get that actually like straight and lined up and make sure both of the pockets are even. And then we're back with more school glue. So we are just gluing down the pocket. I did go press that. And then I'm pulling up my bobbin thread and I'm stitching around the pocket this first round at 1/4 inch. So I'm going all the way around. And then when I get to this point, I'm back stitching, and then I'm going to pivot the whole thing and stitch over and then stitch back around at 1/16 of an inch. So I've got 2 lines of stitching holding the pocket on. I just like the look of it, and it's also going to be really nice and secure. You could also do like a straight stitch and a zigzag. You could do lots of things, but oh, look, we're done. That's it. Oh my God, look how cute. It has pockets. It's pink. I mean, it's great. I love it.